Running small and medium-sized businesses is hard work. Business owners need to be sure their ads are working just as hard as they do. Amazon streaming TV ads makes your marketing dollar work harder. With Amazon ads, trillions of insights help small and medium businesses reach the right customers that matter. Your ads will show up during the shows the people are actually watching. And measurement tools show you what's working the hardest. Gain the edge with Amazon ads.
Verizon Small Business Days are here, August 11th through 17th. Book your appointment today to get special deals like a free 5G phone. Still want more? Get a free tech check while you're here. Call 1-800-483-4428 or visit verizon.com/smallbusiness. We got you covered. Verizon Business. Available for select 5G phones. New line device payment agreement and select data plan required. Credit applied to account over agreement term up to 36 months. Terms apply. Offer ends 8/17/2025.
How many vendors does it take to meet all your organization's food needs? Just one. EasyCater, the workplace food platform that lets teams order from a huge variety of restaurants, over 100,000 nationwide, all through a single vendor. In addition to all that variety, EasyCater also gives you full visibility of your organization's food spend with invoicing, centralized reporting, and seamless integration with expense management systems, all on one platform. EasyCater, your business tool for food. To learn more, visit easycater.com/podcast. How many vendors does it take to meet all your organization's food needs? Just one. EasyCater, the workplace food platform that lets teams order from a huge variety of restaurants, over 100,000 nationwide, all through a single vendor. In addition to all that variety, EasyCater also gives you full visibility of your organization's food spend with invoicing, centralized reporting, and seamless integration with expense management systems, all on one platform. EasyCater, your business tool for food. To learn more, visit easycater.com/podcast.
In business, certainty isn't optional, it's essential. And when you need branded products that show up on time and look exactly right, 4imprint delivers. 4imprint offers hundreds of customizable items, from apparel, bags, and drinkware to high-tech accessories and trade show gear. Many available with 24-hour turnaround to help you meet tight deadlines without missing a beat. You'll get free samples, expert support, and art assistance at no extra cost, so your logo shows up sharp, professional, and completely on brand. Every order is backed by the 4imprint 360-degree guarantee, which means what you approve is exactly what you'll receive. On time, on budget, and without surprises. Whether you're planning a product launch, prepping for a major event, or responding to a last-minute opportunity, you can count on 4imprint to get it done right. That's not just peace of mind. That's the certainty of 4imprint. See what's possible at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
Did my card go through?
Oh no.
Your small business depends on its internet, so switch to Verizon Business. And you could get LTE business internet starting at $39 a month when paired with select business mobile plans. That's unlimited data for unlimited business.
There we go.
Get the internet you need at the price you want. Verizon Business. Starting price for LTE business internet, 25 megabits per second unlimited data plan with select Verizon Business smartphone plan savings. Terms apply.
Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news. You're listening to the Bloomberg Balance of Power podcast. Catch us live weekdays at noon and 5 p.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Listen on demand wherever you get your podcasts or watch us live on YouTube.
Pretty remarkable. Not a question allowed by reporters in the room. And as you can see on Bloomberg TV, there are a lot of them. This is the chaos left from President Trump and President Putin making very quick action at the podiums. Very difficult to tell what was accomplished in this meeting, both referring to progress, Vladimir Putin even referring to a deal, but we have no details on what that might include other than an intention to meet again. This is special extended coverage on Bloomberg TV and radio, the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska. I'm Joe Matthew in Washington, and we thank you for being with us here on Balance of Power as we seek analysis now from our political panel. Bloomberg Politics contributors Rick Davis and Jeannie Shanzano have been with us for the duration, and I would like to hear from both of you here about what we just heard. Jeannie, there were big questions about whether they would be on the same page. It seems they were, not only with their appreciation for one another. It was like two friends being reunited, but in their eagerness to project progress, which may not be backed up by details. What did we just hear?
What we just heard, I think, is pretty clear that President Trump is going to go home with nothing in his pocket except for potentially a second meeting. And that's obviously something, but it is far, far less than I think he wanted. He does want to be a peacemaker here. And I think what is clear is that for all of the niceties and the talk of a relationship, they didn't at least indicate to us any progress by way of approaching peace or a ceasefire vis-a-vis Ukraine. You even heard a little bit from Vladimir Putin, from President Putin, blaming Ukraine for the situation. Not surprising, but it hardly shows that they made progress there. So I think President Trump going home empty-handed. And to your point, it's also very telling that neither president took questions from the press after all of this. They stood, they spoke, and they left. And so I think the reason is they don't have much to say for the time they spent together from the perspective of seeing anything get achieved vis-a-vis the Ukraine-Russian conflict.
Yeah. Do you agree with Jeannie on this, Rick Davis? And in what world is it appropriate to have the president of Russia kick off a news conference at a U.S. military base on American soil?
Yeah, this was my read was clearly this was a Putin meeting. Probably requested the chance to speak first, knowing that it would create this level of diminishment for Donald Trump. Two, that statement he read, Vladimir Putin, could have been written 6 months ago. He came prepared with a statement that was going to make light of the pre-existing relationship between the U.S. and Russia, forgetting decades of hatred and conflict between the two countries. And you would expect that out of a KGB officer, right? Paint a picture of a flowering relationship that has no downside. And I'm not surprised that there is a semblance of a deal, because Vladimir Putin came probably with a deal. And it's probably the same deal he's been talking about for 3 years, which is give me the eastern portion of Ukraine, a ban on ever having Ukraine join NATO, and a disarmament of the Ukraine military. And he talked about those things that were threats to Russia that had to be stopped in order to make peace. If that is indeed the case, and he's been consistent about that, the president will get an earful from his friends in NATO, the European Union, and certainly from President Zelensky when he makes those phone calls.
You do wonder how those calls are going to go here, Jeannie. What would possess Donald Trump to have Vladimir Putin actually begin this news conference as if we were in Moscow, not in Anchorage? And did he in the end protect Putin from taking questions from American journalists?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing from start to finish has been very odd. From the rolling out of the red carpet for somebody who has been indicted on war crimes from the ICC, to inviting him to U.S. soil in the first place, particularly a military base, then to your point, letting him speak first. I think we did hear from Vladimir Putin the kind of flattery that he knows Donald Trump wants when he was talking. For instance, we heard it a couple times, but one point that struck me was when he was saying, oh, Donald Trump is right. If he had been elected, if he had been in office in 2020, none of this would have ever happened. It's hard to believe that, but certainly that's what Donald Trump says all the time and what he wants to hear. And I think the only question for Donald Trump now is, what are you going to do? You made this arrangement for him to come. You're leaving with absolutely nothing. Are you now going to pursue the tariffs that you've talked about? What angle are you going to play now? Because the only one who's won out of this so far is Vladimir Putin. The Russians are thrilled. He has been welcomed back by the U.S. president onto the world stage, treated like a king as he came down the red carpet. And all of that for apparently nothing except maybe a promise of a meeting next time in Moscow, which even Donald Trump said he would probably get some heat for. So I think Donald Trump, to me, looked slightly aggrieved, and he has every right to be, I think, at this point. And I think the question now is, how are you going to respond to this? Because he's going to not want to look like he's been played by Vladimir Putin, but that seems to be what has happened here.
Certainly. Jeannie Shanzano and Rick Davis will stay with us as we add the voice of Bloomberg managing editor Kevin Whitelaw with me here in Washington. Kevin, this was remarkable, and we'd appreciate your insights on what European leaders might make of this. First, they see Vladimir Putin open the news conference. Then no questions are taken, a reference to a deal, no details, not even a date to meet again. Was this summit a failure?
I mean, look, it's going to take a while to understand what Putin meant when he said agreement, right? Yeah. And so, Trump is getting on the phone, and we expect that he's going to be briefing the Ukrainians and some Europeans on what exactly happened. So the real question we'll have to answer in the next hours are, was there anything of substance here? And he just wanted to be able to brief the allies first. Yes. Unclear whether that's the case or not.
We'll allow for that.
So we're going to have to be looking into that. But obviously, that's what everyone's been nervous about across Europe, and particularly in Ukraine, is what might Trump give away? What might he concede? And even if there wasn't a deal, he may have offered concessions that then become part of the sort of ground game for any negotiation. Yes. And I think that is exactly what everyone in the NATO allies, European Union allies are worried about. But Ukraine, which is already suffering shortages of military equipment because of the various freezes on aid, sure. Their finances are in critical condition in many ways. This is a moment where they have to really, really worry that the president of the United States is just giving up parts of their territory and signaling to Russia that they're going to be able to get something out of this aggression. Yeah.
Stay with us on Balance of Power. We'll have much more coming up after this.
You're listening to the Bloomberg Balance of Power podcast. Catch us live weekdays at noon and 5 p.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Listen on demand wherever you get your podcasts or watch us live on YouTube.
We bring you now live to Anchorage. Bloomberg's Anne-Marie Hordern was in the room for that, I guess, not news conference because not a question was asked. We'll call it maybe a vague announcement from Presidents Putin and Trump. It's a pretty busy place right now, Anne-Marie. Tell us what the feeling was in the room when these two walked out without talking to you.
Well, definitely unconventional that we are in the United States. This was an invitation from President Trump to the United States to President Putin, his first time in the U.S. since a decade. And it was President Putin who started out the news conference. And we do know it's an individual who does have a propensity to go very long. He is the one that mentioned security guarantees for Ukraine and mentioned an agreement. So then when the president decided to follow up and give his remarks, you thought that potentially he was going to give more details of a deal that was in the working based off the hours they spent together today, the contours potentially, but that's not what we got. One of the first things Trump said was there's no deal until there's a deal. And he said he had to call his European counterparts, the head of NATO, and President Zelensky, and ultimately he said it's up to them. So this said to me, especially since they didn't take questions, that territory was discussed, because remember, we only had the foreign policy 3-by-3 meeting between both these delegations, not the expanded meeting when you had the Commerce Secretary here and the Treasury Secretary here. So this was strictly likely about territorial swaps as I read it, and what the Russians were willing to offer. Maybe President Trump knows that is not something Volodymyr Zelenskiy can swallow. The third rail, the red line in Ukraine, of course, is Zelensky pulling out of the region Donbass, which Putin wants all of, that region Luhansk and Donetsk. mask where you have Volodymyr Zelenskiy and the Ukrainian front keeping a holdover. Very interesting. They didn't take questions. I'm not surprised that maybe Vladimir Putin didn't want to take questions, but President Trump loves briefing the press, and I imagine he's going to brief the press on his way back to Washington, and he's also set to sit down for another Fox News interview, so maybe we will get some more color.
Right.
But he did say one of the first things he's going to do is call his European counterparts.
So, Anne-Marie, just to be clear, that extended session, the working lunch, as it was framed in the guidance from the White House with the Treasury and Commerce secretaries, is not happening now? Is everybody going home?
It does feel that way. I spoke to Kirill Dmitriev, the head of the Russian Direct Investment Fund, who is really kind of has become this interlocutor between Moscow, Washington, maybe the most direct contact to Steve Witkoff. And I kept asking him at the end, what happened here? Is there a cessation of hostilities? What kind of agreement is Putin talking about? And he said, more progress, more progress, more progress, more to come. But we don't have any details on if there's going to be another meeting soon, if there's going to be this secondary meeting. The president continuously teased all week, saying the second meeting is going to be even more important than the first, because likely that would include President Zelensky alongside President Putin and President Trump. As of now, it seems that everyone is packing up and going home.
Wow. Bloomberg's Anne-Marie Hordern went all the way to Anchorage to bring this story to us without even a dialogue with these two presidents. A pretty interesting result here, Anne-Marie. Thank you so much. I want to bring Kevin Whitelaw back in, Bloomberg managing editor, with the idea of a second meeting, as Donald Trump said, being more productive than the first. Should we assume there will be a second meeting? What if European leaders don't like this phone call?
I mean, European leaders have to react carefully here because they, need to keep Trump on board with support to Ukraine. They're relying on the U.S. military supplies, weaponry to be delivered. So they have to find a way to keep him on sides without allowing him to make concessions that they simply find unacceptable. So they're going to have to continue to play this game of praising him gently while offering him cautions and words. My guess is the fact that this was a three-way meeting, 3-on-3, rather than a one-on-one, probably gave them a little bit of comfort. But I can imagine when they saw the two of those leaders in the back of the president's limousine, there were probably a lot of very, very nervous emails flying.
I'd still like to know what was said in that car. There wasn't a translator with them, so presumably Vladimir Putin was speaking English. Kevin, Donald Trump brought up what he likes to call the Russia hoax. Russia, Russia, Russia. In his very brief remarks, to think that he went there today tells us what?
Well, I think it just tells us that's the frame through which he's seen everything.
Still,
right? So, I mean,
nothing's changed.
Well, this meeting was as much about him as it was about trying to solve anything, right? I mean, he's been pretty clear. He's waiting for that Nobel Peace Prize to be handed to him.
Yes.
Obviously, most of what happens to him, he sees through a political lens. And so, the Russia hoax was a knowing nod to people in a way to sort of say, hey, you see that I'm not sort of part of that. But, I think as everyone else is watching this, that feels like ancient history. What really feels like the stakes are now is Ukraine's future and what, after all, Trump is going to do to a country that has otherwise been entirely isolated by most of the Western world, has been cut off and has had its economy absolutely torn apart by this sanctions regime. And Trump seems to be offering them a way out of some of that, and it's just not clear what Russia is going to give up, if anything.
Yeah. Lastly, Kevin, if this working lunch with an economic dialogue, including Bessent and Lutnick, their counterparts, in fact, is not going to take place as it does appear now, does that suggest the U.S. or even both sides overreached to think that we were going to have an economic summit today as well?
My guess is both sides, particularly the U.S. side, didn't know what was going to happen today, and I think they wanted to be ready for a lot of things. It was interesting that obviously the Russians brought a delegation that included an economic team as well. Did seem like maybe they thought there was more to happen to go on. At the same time, this did last quite a long time, so that does mean that they probably got somewhere in the conversation. Now, whether that meant that they realized that their nowhere close, or whether that meant that they see a path forward, I think it's going to take a little while to sort out. But that was the longest meeting they've had.
You're right.
And I think that's not insignificant. Right?
Kevin Whitelaw, thank you so much. With me here in Washington. And Kevin's right. This is stretched beyond 2.5 hours, which in fact was their longest meeting. It may have seemed short because of expectations that this could go on for twice as long. It obviously did not. And we want to bring our panel back in. Bloomberg Politics contributors Rick Davis and Jeannie Shanzano. Jeannie, Vladimir Putin mentioned Joe Biden, or at least referred to him in his remarks before President Trump spoke, knowing that Vladimir Putin spoke first. He criticized the former president, saying he can confirm that if Donald Trump had been president, this war never would have happened. Does he actually believe that?
I don't think so. I think it is part of his quote unquote charm offensive towards Donald Trump. You know, Vladimir Putin is smart. He's strategic. He knows exactly what President Trump wants to hear, and that is that kind of flattery. He's just reflecting back to Donald Trump something Donald Trump says all the time. And, you know, what was so stunning to me was, at least watching it from afar, is despite that flattery, Donald Trump seemed a bit mixed emotionally when you just watched him there. After all, he flew all the way there. He rolled out the red carpet. He invited somebody who was wanted on war crimes to U.S. soil, a military base. He rode in the beast with him, smiling, clapped when he came, and he is leaving after 3 hours, couple hours, with nothing to show for it except some flattery. So I felt like even Donald Trump, who usually is prone to that kind of flattery, may have been thinking, this is not why I came all the way here, because what we all expected, Vladimir Putin shows absolutely no signs of moving at all away from what he has long said about his intent to hold the land that he's taken and to keep with what he demanded from Biden, quite frankly, in Istanbul, and has not been able to get from the Europeans, Ukraine, or the U.S. And Donald Trump now is the latest person to hear these demands and not to bend to them, thankfully.
Mm-hmm. The Bloomberg News headline says it all here at almost 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Trump-Putin news conference ends with no details on agreement. Rick Davis, we heard Vladimir Putin speak English very briefly at the end of his remarks. He said next time in Moscow, suggesting that the next session might happen in the Russian capital. Could that take place?
Well, if there is a universal peace between Russia and Ukraine that preserves Ukraine's sovereignty and independence, sure, yeah, why not, right? I mean, but that's likely to happen never. The reality is we've just got to, realize that Vladimir Putin is a trained KGB agent who uses every element of, subterfuge to disable his opponent. And in this case, let's not be kidding ourselves. Donald Trump is his opponent. The real test is going to be tomorrow morning when we wake up, have missiles flown from Russia to the Ukraine, killing more Ukrainian people, have drones flown over the capital of Kyiv, attacking innocent civilians, has the ground troops continued an offensive, in threatening the eastern Ukraine. I mean, that's going to tell us where this deal stands. And if that happens, I think Donald Trump puts himself in a position to have to then start answering questions about what was agreed to, because it didn't seem to shape the battlefield.
So, Jeannie, will Donald Trump regret the red carpet and the limo ride?
I think he is going to. Donald Trump said on the campaign trail he'd resolve this in 24 hours, I think it was. He said it over 50 times. He deeply believed they had a connection. And he went all this way with this summit today, rolling out the red carpet, only to really, I think he probably feels inside, be made something of a fool of, because there was nothing coming out of it. And that's why most leaders of the U.S. and other countries don't go into these summits with nothing to show for them. I am stunned that they didn't even talk about things outside of Ukraine, at least giving the president something to say he got in the end. So Donald Trump, I think, has to feel very aggrieved. No matter how much flattery Vladimir Putin throws his way, nothing can make up for the fact that he did not get what he came for.
Mm-hmm. Jeannie Shanzano and Rick Davis.
Thanks for listening to the Balance of Power podcast. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already at Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can find us live every weekday from Washington, D.C. at noontime Eastern at Bloomberg.com.
These days, AI can help you adopt better time management, but it can't stop colleagues booking meetings during lunch. But how about being able to easily adopt industrial AI to streamline your business? Siemens Accelerator helps you find the right AI providers and easily understand what they offer, so you can use modular solutions to quickly scale up and grow your business. That's AI for real, from the global market leader in industrial AI, Siemens. Learn more on usa.siemens.com/AI.
So, have you heard the story about the prescription plan with savings automatically built in? It's where a family of any size can feel confident the cost of their medication won't hold them back. Go to cmk.co/stories to learn how CVS Caremark helps members save just by being members. That's cmk.co/STORIES.
Every business has an ambition. PayPal Open is the platform designed to help you grow into yours. With business loans so you can expand and access to hundreds of millions of PayPal customers worldwide. And your customers can pay all the ways they want with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards, so you can focus on scaling up. When it's time to get growing, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.